In her famous novel Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen created two of the best-loved characters in romantic fiction. Millions of people over the years have been intrigued by Mr. Darcy, the handsome, proud but enigmatic hero of the novel, and the story of how he meets, misunderstands, and finally is united with Elizabeth Bennet. However, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice reveals surprisingly little about Darcy, and how he has changed from the haughty, reserved and fastidious young man to the ardent and humble suitor for the hand of the woman he loves. My book, Darcys Story, explores his thoughts and actions, and the reasons behind them, and shows that the hero is just as interesting a person as Elizabeth Bennet herself. I have been surprised and delighted to discover that my need to know more about Mr. Darcy is shared by people all over the world. More than 150,000 copies of Darcys Story have been sold to readers in the United States, the United Kingdom, and many other countries. This popular novel seems to satisfy a long-felt need for very many readers. I am now going to read from chapter 19 in the book. I do hope that you enjoy this part of Darcy's story. Darcy's anxiety to justify what he had said to Elizabeth Bennet, to maintain to himself the correctness of his approach, did not long survive. He soon began to examine and re-examine every part of what he had said, every manner of expression he had used on that fateful evening in Kent. There seemed to be no escape from his uneasiness and confusion, which troubled him at every time of day and wherever he was. Avoiding as he often did the social round in town, and unable to visit Bingley's house in the country, Darcy was tempted many times to leave for Pemberley and the peace of Derbyshire. But Georgiana was busy with her music masters, and he had not the heart to deprive his sister of his company without any real excuse, until she went to visit their cousin's family in Essex. It was some comfort to be with her, who was so dear to him. In any case, it seemed very doubtful whether he would gain any more peace of mind by leaving town. On several occasions, when he was lost in thought, he caught Georgiana looking at him carefully, but she said nothing. Finally, one evening when they were alone, his sister asked him hesitantly, "Is there anything particular troubling you at the moment? I should so like to be of use, if there is. You are always thinking of me, and I should like to help you in return." She coloured as she spoke, as though he might reprimand her, or speak and rebuff. Darcy was not sure for a moment how best to reply. For many years an only child, he had been accustomed to being without a confidant where the affairs of his heart were concerned. Until now, Georgiana had always been very much his younger sister, someone for him to protect, rather than to share his problems with. "I am not sure how to answer you," he said slowly. "It is a matter of affection, about someone to whom I would have given no attention previously. Although I do not find our aunt, Lady Catherine, easy company, I have always shared her view that it is of primary importance to marry well, to seek an alliance with someone of your own consequence. Do you not agree?" He was surprised to see that she looked very shaken. Then she said, "Are you referring to Mr. Wickham? To what happened last year, before I had the benefit of your advice?" "No, no, of course not," he said quickly, anxious to reassure her. "You were sadly misled, and in any case you had, to begin with, no one, no mother, no one at all to turn to." His sister looked very relieved. Darcy went on, finding himself more comfortable than he had expected in being able to speak to someone about his agony of mind. "No, I will be honest with you. I am thinking of my own situation. Georgiana, you do understand how much importance I give to social position and family matters. Too much reliance on that does not often seem to lead to happiness, Georgiana said reflectively. I would hope that you would marry someone you find congenial. You do not often seem to like people or anybody else in town, nor when you went to Hertfordshire, from what you said to me before. Is that not so? And even those people whom you seem to prefer can be very, she paused, sharp, like Miss Bingley and Mrs. Hurst. Darcy looked at her in surprise, for his sister had not ventured this opinion to him previously with such clarity. But it was perhaps because he had begun to share her view about Bingley's sisters, after their comments on Elizabeth Bennet in Hertfordshire, that he decided to tell her something of the truth. Perhaps you can help me, for I am very troubled in my mind. Whilst I was at Rosings with cousin Fitzwilliam, I met again a lady, a Miss Elizabeth Bennet, whose family come from Hertfordshire, near the house that Charles Bingley took on lease last Michaelmas. I realized then that I liked her very much better than many people I have met. Miss Bennet is one of the few people I could rely on to keep a secret of mine, but her family are not superior, particularly her mother, her mother's family and her younger sisters. I met her again because she was visiting her close friend Charlotte Lucas, who has married the rector at Hunsford. Darcy stopped, for he could not bring himself to go as far as saying that he himself had then proposed marriage. Then he went on, I spoke to her more plainly than I now think that I should have done, about the importance of connections and social position in marriage, and there were other things about which we disagreed. But I know that you would like her. She is not only lovely and amiable, but she is also lively, accomplished in singing and dancing, and plays the pianoforte with pleasure. In truth, I like her very well indeed. But how important are her connections, and how can I commend myself to her, in the unlikely event that we should ever meet again? The way in which he spoke, with more feeling than she had ever heard him, confirmed to Georgiana that her brother must have said many things that he now regretted. She replied slowly, I am not at all experienced in the ways of the world, as you are, but it seems to me that people are of good breeding if they behave in a genteel manner, are thoughtful and considerate, and not because of who they are, or because they are always proud of how much money or consequence they possess. She went on, I know that you and I are well provided for, so surely we do not have to seek a fortune, as cousin Fitzwilliam says that he must. I know that he must be jesting, at least a little, but you have this house, and Pemberley, and a great estate, and... Her courage then began to fail Georgiana, and her voice trailed away, as she began to think that she had said too much. Her brother had turned away, and was deep in thought for some minutes. Then he looked back at her and said, I believe that you are right. Manners are important, but only if they are genuine. How I wish that I had talked with you before, for I may have said and done things that I may never be able to change, and shall always regret. Georgiana paused for a moment in case he said anything further, but when he did not, she said softly, You cannot be sure of that. Perhaps the best guide is to treat people, everyone you meet, with the politeness and consideration with which you would wish them to treat you. He looked at her in surprise, for this was indeed a novel thought for him. He could not stop himself saying, Everyone? She did not reply, but looked at him steadily. Darcy then said, I understand you, but I fear that it may be too late. I do wish that you had been able to meet her. And with that He left the room, leaving his sister to wonder what she could do to ease his evident distress. You can find out more and obtain a copy of my book, Darcys Story, by looking at the website janetaylmer.com. That is spelt JANETAYLMER.com. Thank you.